Hey there. In this video, I'm going to be continuing my conversation with you about doing self-hypnosis. This is part 2 in the series, so please make sure that you have already watched the first section on doing self-hypnosis. And I recommend for this one that you have a paper and pencil handy, and let's get started. As a quick reminder, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. Go ahead and subscribe. And if you like this content, give me a thumbs up. And of course, hit the bell for future notifications. Thank you so much. This video is going to be broken into 12 different sections. Initially, I was going to have 12 different videos for this, but that just seemed kind of ridiculous. The personal change blueprint that you're going to be creating for yourself in self-hypnosis has 12 steps, but I'm going to just explain each of these to you in isolation, and each step will be divided by a little graphic. So as you go back and review the video, you can find the step you need if you just want to see a particular part of the instruction. So let's talk about this for a minute. I explained to you already the importance of repetition in self-hypnosis. So you're going to put yourself into the state of self-hypnosis, and then you're going to review the suggestions that you're creating today. Number one importance is that you use language that creates the imagery of what you do want. Your subconscious mind is going to listen to the words that you're thinking, and it's going to translate those like it's a different language, okay? It's this universal translator, and it's going to take those words, it's going to turn them into imagery, and that will be the content of your new habit. So you've got to make sure you use the right words. You know, if you tell your subconscious mind something like, I want to stop screaming at my kids every day, your subconscious mind actually just made a picture of you screaming at your kids every day. So the question you'll want to ask yourself is this. So if I'm not screaming at my kids all day, what am I doing? And that will help you get into the groove of answering these questions with the right words. I've said you can do this the right way or the wrong way, and it's true. If you do this the wrong way, you're going to program yourself to, to have the problem, to keep making the mistake, or, maintain the bad habit. So just listen, follow along. There's a lot of steps to this, but I want to be brief with these. I'll give you some detail, but I do highly recommend that you get my book or take the course or both for a more in-depth understanding of each of these steps along the way. This is your personal change blueprint. Now, think about it. If you were going to build a home, you'd need to have a blueprint, right? A plan. You need to think ahead of time of what you want. And that's what it's like here. You want a new habit. And so these questions are designed to help you really flesh it out so that you know exactly what you want. In the first step, this is step 1, is that I want you to think about this unwanted habit, this thing that you're doing that you don't want to do anymore. Maybe you want to cut back on the wine. Maybe you want to stop procrastinating. Maybe you want to get up on time every morning. Maybe you want to sleep better. Whatever it is that you want, it's because what you've got isn't making you happy. So question number 1, I want you to think back on when this unwanted habit started. When did it start? Because when you first started that unwanted habit, and for most of us, these unwanted habits are decades old. So think back to when you first remember doing this thing and ask yourself, what was the value that this habit brought to me all back then? When it was first created. It's certainly not bringing you any value right now, or you wouldn't be wanting to change it. But when it was first created, that is what you want to look for. So See if you can identify the value of that. And then what you want to do is, this is the second part of number 1 here on your personal change blueprint, is you want to explain to your subconscious mind, number 1, that you appreciate that value that it brought into your life all those years ago, but that you don't need that value anymore because as an adult now, and this is what I call your now statement. You're going to say, I don't need that value because now this is what's going on. This is what I want. This is how I am. And it gives the subconscious mind a way to process this change that is absolutely free of resistance. Because, hopefully, as you know, law of attraction is always at work. And if you are taking this unwanted habit and you are demonizing it, guess what you're doing? You're sending out the vibrational frequency of what you do not want. And my friends, that is the surest and quickest way to get back exactly what you do not want. So we don't want to demonize this bad habit. Whether you're smoking or drinking or you're addicted to porn or you're gambling or whatever it is you're doing that you don't want to do anymore, don't turn it into the monster. Look at what kind of value it may have brought into your life at some point. Tell your subconscious mind, thank you. Thank you for that. But I don't need to seek that value in that way anymore because now, tell it why. And then it'll just be like this beautiful, smooth, really good, energetic release. Okay. And you're not going to be bringing back into your life more of what you don't want. That's step 1. Okay. It's called your now statement. You ready for step 2? Here's part 2 on this one. And this is where you are going to craft your outcome. I often say that creating this blueprint is kind of like writing a story, and it's going to be turned into a mind movie because your subconscious mind will read the story, turn it into imagery, and then that will be used for the programming. So it's like you're writing a screenplay or something like that. So what's it about? What is the nature of this change? Now, this is the most important part, this outcome, where you really want to use the right words depicting what it is that you do want. Okay, I cannot emphasize this enough. If you want to quit smoking, I know you want to quit smoking. I know what that means, but your subconscious mind cannot make a picture of you not smoking if that's the way you say it. So ask yourself, if I'm not smoking, what am I? What can I visualize? And here are some answers that my clients give me. They say, I am free from that unwanted habit of using tobacco. Now, I can see the picture of that. I see this man running away. And a really common imagery for my smoking clients, I say smoking like they're on fire and they're smoking, right? As they say, what I see? I see like a ball and chain around my ankle, and that chain is broken, and I'm escaping. I'm free from the bondage of that old habit. So use the kind of words that create that kind of an image. If you are, maybe you want to give up the habit of eating ice cream every night in front of the TV. Revealing a little too much of myself here. But, instead of saying, I want to stop eating ice cream every night, because again, your subconscious mind just made a picture of you eating ice cream every night. What you want to do is you want to say, I find it easy to be free from any thought or desire to eat anything at all between dinner, the end of my dinner, and my bedtime. I can see that. You're free from that. Again, free from. So figure out how to name this change that you want. This is your outcome. This is what you're shooting for. This is the part where I hope you will drop your ideas in the comments below, because you're going to need some help. You're going to want to say, did I say this right? what's a better way to say this? I want this outcome, but I can't figure out how to say it in the right way. So let's all help each other and, drop our ideas down in the comment section. And if you're enjoying this, please give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and, ring that little bell so you get a notice of my next videos. Okay, you have completed section 2. That is the crafting of your outcome. Remember that, because what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that you're the guy or the girl who's in charge of practicing this play, this production, okay? But you only get your crew together, once a day. So you just practice one step a day. So when you come back tomorrow, before you can answer the next question, you've got to review the outcome. You'll review the outcome, and then you'll do the next step. And then everybody goes home. And then the next day you come back, and you got to get everybody back on board. So before you answer that one, you got to review the outcome. Then you got to review the answers on the next one. And then you can answer that. Does that make sense? This is a cumulative reviewing of the answers you put here. And you see the magic already is starting to happen. The repetition already is starting to happen. And something else interesting that's happening is that the longer you stay focused on any particular idea, the more like ideas come to it. Law of attraction again, okay? And this is why I think Esther Hicks, who channels Abraham, I believe they quote 17 seconds. That if you can stay focused on something for 17 seconds, another idea, a like idea, will pop in. Well, that's pretty cool if you are focused on what you want. But can you see now what happens to us when we worry or we get that negative dialogue going on in our head? And, that goes on for more than 17 seconds, and then a matching complaint and another negative idea and another, and we start making stuff up. It's not even real. That's just the way the brain works. So the more repetition as you fill this out and you answer all these questions, the more your brain is going to be generating new ideas and exciting things, and you're going to have this so fleshed out, you will be shocked and amazed at how many things are going to change in your life and the lives of your loved ones because of this one simple change that you've decided to make for yourself today. So you've crafted your outcome. That is it for number 2. We're on to number 3. Are you ready for number 3? Are you taking notes? And again, if you want a full explanation of all of these steps and reminders and everything, it's all in the book and the course that I have available. Step number 3 is about evidence. So this question asks you this: because you have accomplished your outcome, what kinds of evidence do you notice that proves to you that this change is happening? So this is probably a really good time for me to remind you or to tell you that I want you to answer these questions from the perspective that you have already accomplished your outcome. Not that you're going to, it's not something you're working on, you're not working towards it, okay? You have accomplished this outcome. So in fact, what I'm going to ask you to do is to put the word because in front of that outcome. So when your crew comes back, right, your cast of characters in this mind movie comes back, before they can answer this question about evidence, what's changed in your life because you've accomplished your outcome, review the outcome. Say, all right, everybody, yesterday we decided here's the outcome. So because, blah, 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 outcome, what kinds of changes do you notice in your life? And this is where you really begin this beautiful storytelling process for yourself. You're making this mind movie. So jot down a few things that you can think of that are going to be different in your life because you have accomplished that outcome. Okay? Sometimes people will say things like, well, I'm going back to the ice cream eating lady. Well, I have more interest in working on some crafts now. Because before, remember, she was just like eating ice cream in front of the TV every night. So she's not doing that anymore. So something that's different for her, well, she feels like going into her craft room, or maybe she's, out working in the garden, or she's spending time with her partner or her kids, or she's going for a walk. Who knows what kinds of changes are happening because she's now free from the old habit of eating the ice cream every night. Okay. So jot down your evidence. That's number 3. That was number 3, evidence. You're ready to look at step 4, and this part is imagery. And sometimes people think these questions are just repetitive, like, that's the same question, you just asked me in a different way. And that kind of is, but again, because now you know that the longer you stay focused on any one idea, the more ideas are generated through the subconscious mind, and the more you are attracting, you are resonating other ideas, they're coming to you from wherever, okay? So this question says, because you have accomplished your outcome, when you think about that change, what kind of imagery comes to mind? But before you jot that down, I want you to imagine again that you're talking to this cast, all these people that are in your mind movie, and you're saying, because you got to go back and say, let's get everybody back on board. So because we have accomplished XYZ, that's your outcome, and we notice all of these beautiful changes, and then you review the things you wrote down for your evidence. And when I think about all of this, the imagery that comes to mind for me looks like whatever comes to mind. It can be literal or figurative. You might see rainbows and butterflies, and by God, that is a legitimate response. If that's what you see, write that down. What imagery do you see? Because you've accomplished the outcome and you recognize all the changes, the evidence, and because of that, you see this imagery. And after you get that jotted down, you are going to be ready for the next step. So if you need to pause the video while you write down that video, go ahead and do that. I'm making some notes here. Go ahead and do that, and we'll do number 5 next. Here we are in question number 5 of your personal change blueprint, and this one is about sound. And that sounds like a really weird question, right? The question goes like this. Because you've accomplished your outcome, what sounds are associated with this change? When I ask that to my clients, sometimes they just look at me like I just fell off the back of the turnip truck or something. But think of it in terms of your mind movie and the cast of characters that you have in putting on this production. Well, it's a play, right? It's a screenwrite. It's going to have characters. It's going to have a plot and a solution, and it's going to have a soundtrack. So what sounds are on your soundtrack because you have accomplished your outcome? So again, pretend like you've got these people here, they're back today, and you got to kind of review what you've already been practicing so they're ready for the next scene. So because I have accomplished XYZ and I recognize all of this evidence, all of these changes in my life, when I think of that, this imagery comes to mind. And when I look at that imagery and notice all these changes, the sounds that I recognize are what? I know you're stuck. Let me give you a hint. Sounds can easily be thought of in 3 or more, but 3 different areas. Number 1, that voice in your head would be a legitimate sound, right? That internal dialogue. What kind of an internal conversation are you having with yourself because you accomplish your outcome and you see all that evidence and then you saw the imagery, and so now your voice is saying this? So internal dialogue. A sound could also be coming from other people, comments from other people. And a sound that can also be counted is actually the absence of a sound. And I've had clients who have the habit of, chomping away on the potato chips at night after dinner. I say, well, it's quiet. I can hear the TV now because there's an absence of the sound of me crunching the chips. I love that. That's great. That's part of the soundtrack of your mind movie. So take a moment, think about what sounds might be associated with this change that you're making. And if you need to pause the video, go ahead and get that jotted down before we head on to the next question in your personal change blueprint. Ready for the next one? And I think you know the drill. So I will be brief. You've got your people, you got a review right from the beginning, the outcome, the evidence, the imagery, the sounds. And now you ask yourself, here's the question for this part, what does that feel like for me to be looking at this beautiful change? And this includes emotional feelings and physical feelings. And let me just mention this. I find it interesting that so many of my clients, by the time we get to this question and we look back at the answers on the other questions, a lot of those are feeling questions. Some people, when I say, what imagery comes to mind, and they'll say, well, I feel like it's all red or yellow. They feel what they see or they feel what they hear. And that's perfectly fine. It's normal. You don't need to take all of those and move them down here. Don't bother with that. But just think about what it feels like for you. And if I can give you some prompts, I am hoping that you will come up with words like, I feel a sense of relief. I feel proud of myself. I feel liberated. I feel empowered. I feel healthy. I feel stronger. Okay. I feel happy. So think about what it feels for you. And if you are making the kind of change that is going to have a big effect on your physical symptoms or something, maybe you will feel more energy. You will feel stronger. Maybe you'll feel relieved because now you're free from pain, or whatever it is for you that you're working on. Think about what you're feeling. And again, it can be literal or figurative. You might feel like I'm on cloud 9. Oh, that's a great answer. If that's what you feel, write it down. Another common one that is, an imagery is, I feel like that weight has been lifted from my shoulders. Oh, that's a good feeling to have. So pause the video if you need to, get your answers written down. And again, let me remind you, all of these answers, these are the details you're going to be feeding back to yourself in the state of hypnosis. This is your personal change blueprint. And through the repetition of this mind movie, you create new neural pathways in your brain that results in new habits, a new way of being. That results in you sending off a vibrational frequency that is in resonance with what your conscious mind wants. So now you've got conscious and subconscious on the same page. They are sending out the same vibe. And that is how you master law of attraction and start bringing back into your life what you want to have happen. Isn't that exciting? I hope you're excited about this. If you are, again, drop some comments down there for me. Give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and we are going to carry on. So if you need to pause the video for a moment while you write things down, please do so. And I'll see you back at the next one shortly after. This question is number 7, and this one is a little different. We're kind of breaking the pattern that we've been in for the last few. This one's interesting. It's kind of a sit back and summarize this whole change. And sometimes I call this your come to Jesus moment, because this question says, looking at all of this change that you are creating for yourself, answer this. What does having this change do for you? Let me repeat that. What does having this change do for you? You're going to give up smoking. What does that do for you? You're going to quit eating crap food at night. What does that do for you? You're going to quit pacing the floors at night and worrying about imaginary stuff from work. What does that do for you? Okay, so this one's pretty deep. Take some time and contemplate this and, really do some soul searching. Go deep with this. All of these answers are very personal. No one's ever going to see these or hear these unless you choose to share them with somebody. But, take some time. Definitely pause the video and do some internal reflection on this one. Come up with what this change does for you and get that jotted down, and I'll see you on question 8. We're back with question 8, and I have good news and bad news. The good news is that question 8 is the last question. The bad news is that it has 5 parts to it, which isn't really bad news, but it's the same question, but it's about 5 different categories. And it goes like this. Here's the question. The question says, because you've accomplished this outcome, right? You got the outcome, you got the evidence, you got the imagery, you got the sounds, and you got the feelings. You've identified what this change does for you. And the question now is, what kind of positive influence do you notice now on, number 1, your relationships? A better way to ask this is to say, what kind of positive interaction do you notice in the way you interact with people? Friends, family, strangers, co-workers. I mean, you could just be, a more conscientious driver, maybe, when you're on the freeway and somebody wants to merge in front of you, you just, you're more kind, you're more generous. Those are complete strangers. So think about this change you're making and what kind of positive influence it has on the way you interact with other people. Okay, jot that down. When you're ready, we'll go on to part B on number 8. This is asking, what kind of positive influence do you notice? Again, because you've accomplished the outcome and yada, 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 all that other stuff, right? So because of all that, what kind of positive influence do you notice in your career and finances? Career and finances. Now, let me add this. If you are a student, just swap out the word career with my studies or my education or my schooling, whatever works for you, okay? What kind of positive influence do you notice on your career and or finances because you have accomplished this outcome? Now, there are some changes that people make that have absolutely no influence on their career or their finances at all. Other people, and I'm thinking of people who give up smoking, they notice a huge change in their finances and sometimes in their career as well. So think about your career and finances and what kind of a change will you notice in that part of your life because you accomplished this outcome. Pause the video if you need to, get that jotted down, because we are going on to the next one, the third part here for number 8. This time we're asking, what kind of positive influence do you notice in your health? And again, it's always prefaced with because you have accomplished your outcome. So your health, well, that's a pretty wide umbrella. There's physical health, emotional health, psychological health, spiritual health, right? There's a lot of different areas of our health, and this includes all of them. Think about what kind of positive influence you will notice on your health. I'll tell you the number 1 common answer I get from my clients on this. Usually, because people accomplish the outcome, they feel a huge decrease in their stress levels. That means they're sleeping better. When you're okay, that is a positive influence on your health. I'm getting adequate sleep every night. That means I wake up in the morning and I've got time to work out. It's like this domino effect, right? My stress is less, so I'm sleeping better. I have more time to work out. Then I'm more inclined to eat right. yada, yada, yada. Oh, it's this wonderful domino effect. So think about this for yourself. What kind of positive influence will you notice on your health because you have accomplished your outcome? Get that jotted down. We've got only 2 more sections left on the personal change blueprint. So when you're ready, I'm going to ask you the same question, only this time I want to know the positive influence you're noticing on your self-esteem. You might think that belongs with the previous category of health, and you would be right. It does, but it's so important that I wanted to isolate it. And I want you to really think about how much better you feel about yourself because you have accomplished this outcome. Because when you are focused on liking yourself and feeling good about yourself and being proud of yourself, and you've got more confidence, you know that you can take this change and you can apply it to different areas of your life. Think about the vibrational frequency you are sending out into the universe now. And this frequency is coming from both conscious and subconscious. Okay. Wow. Imagine what you can start drawing back into your life now because you are getting both these parts of your mind on board with each other and sending out a coherent frequency that is finding something to resonate with that matches all of this good stuff you're throwing out there and bringing that back to you. And honestly, this is truly a case of the better you feel, the better it gets, and the better it gets, the better you feel. And it's like you're on this upward spiral now of incredible wellness and joyfulness and prosperity and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's really fun. I hope you're as excited about this. I love it. I got one more question. Are we ready? It's my favorite of all. This is about your spiritual practice. I want to ask you that because you have accomplished your outcome, you see the evidence proving that to you. When you look at the evidence, the imagery comes to mind, you've jotted that down and included any associated sounds. You've identified how that's made you feel. You have identified what having this change does for you. You've identified the positive influence in the way you interact with people, the influence in your career, your finances, your health, your self-esteem. And now I want to know what kind of positive influence does this have on your spiritual practice, if any. Now, if you don't have a spiritual practice, not to worry. You can just skip this part. It's not mandatory at all. But if you have a spiritual practice, how's this going to be influenced? I know for some people, again, I always go back to the smokers, right? They think, well, shoot, you know what? I can go to the retreat now because I'm free from the old smoking habit. I know that I can go to the spiritual retreat and be comfortable the whole time. Whereas before it was like, I can't go there. I got to sneak out and smoke. And that is just not okay at a spiritual retreat, right? So, I mean, and that there's all kinds of things. Some people, their spiritual practice is attending church services. So maybe they will feel more comfortable with themselves and more comfortable to go back to church. They have friends there and they're socializing and all of that. That can be counted as your spiritual practice. So take that into consideration as well. And then that was the last question. You have completed a personal change blueprint. Now, if this was a blueprint for a new house, you would be all ready to turn that over to the architect and the engineer and say, here you go. I got all the details, every detail fleshed out, build it. But what you're going to be doing is you're going to put yourself into that beautiful state of relaxation where you have access to the subconscious part of your mind. You're going to review this wonderful mind movie a couple of times each day in hypnosis. And through the repetition of doing that, your subconscious mind is going to create brand new neural pathways. This new habit will become second nature to you. And then you will be emitting the vibrational frequency of whatever is contained in your blueprint. and it will be a match to what the conscious mind wants, because it is your conscious mind that designed the blueprint. And this is how you create change for yourself. It's also how you master the law of attraction, all through self-hypnosis. It's so easy and it's so incredible. I just want to stand on the rooftops and shout it out to the world. I want to tell everybody, you can be happy. You can live the kind of life you want for yourself. You're not trapped. You're not stuck in misery. Take control. Learn how to do self-hypnosis. Change your life for the better. You can do this. It's just that easy. Make sure you're using the right kind of language that's creating the imagery of what you do want. And you know, as you sit down in hypnosis and you get ready to review this beautiful story you've created, it's all right if you get the details mixed up. This is not linear. You don't have to go through step 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4. You can mix this up. It's a beautiful story, and it is inevitable that as you go through this mind movie, other ideas are going to pop up that you hadn't thought about before. Remember? Every 17 seconds focused on the same idea, new ideas come in. So as you're doing your hypnosis and new ideas come in that you didn't write on your blueprint, just add them into it mentally. Just make sure that you're using the words when you're thinking about them. Think about them in words that create the picture that you want to fit in there. Okay? So it's all right to mix up the details. It's all right to add stuff in there that you think of later. And I recommend with this self-hypnosis that you stick to the same subject for, gosh, 7 to 10 days. Sometimes I say 10 days to 2 weeks. But if you can stick to the same subject 7 to 10 days, you will have firmly embedded this change as far as the neural pathways go in the brain, and made this a permanent change in your vibrational frequency. But, this is a big but, you're going to notice the positive change much sooner than that. You will typically start to notice changes in your life within just 1 to 2 or 3 days after starting hypnosis. And for some people, they're tempted to stop doing it because they think, holy smokes, that works so fast. And again, back to my smokers, they're the worst. You know, they listen to the recording 1 or 2 times and they're done. They don't want to smoke. It makes them sick to even think about it. So they're like, I don't need to listen to that recording anymore. I'm done. I've got it. But they don't. You know, they're good for 6 months, and then some stressful thing pops into their life, and the first thing they do is it activates the smoking programming in their head, and they go back to it. So please, please, please choose a topic, stick to it for 7 to 10 days, even though you will start to notice the change much sooner than that. That is how it works. Please let me know if you like this, if this is helping you. This personal change blueprint is a little piece of heaven, if you ask me. And again, if you want a fuller explanation, you can read about it in my book. You can take there's a companion course that goes with that. I'll drop the links below on that. But leave me some comments. Let me know what you thought about this. I know this is kind of a long video, but it's well worth it, I hope. Let me know. And you know what? Keep up the good work. You can create the kind of life you want for yourself. And there's no time like the present to get started.